Thank you for the more than gracious introduction. I'd really like to thank my old friend, Mr. Omkareshwar Pandey, for having me here at this event. A lot has already been said by different speakers, covering a whole range of issues connected with the title of today's discussion. I'll start from an example about, I'm sure many of you would be watching T20 matches these days. So when the match begins, the camera shows the whole world, the whole planet, and slowly zooms in on this stadium. Do you see that every day? So, my favorite phrase is, on one planet, you see two worlds, the developed world and the developing or underdeveloped world. The planet is the same, and there is so much of variation, so much of diversity on the same planet. Why? Why some countries are rich while others are poor? A country like the US, which practically didn't have any written history before 400 years, today is considered to be one of the most developed. I remember when I was in the US, 2005, Michael Porter at the Harvard Business School had just come back from Davos, 2005, and he said, let's walk to my office. It was snowing. He said, I have a question for you. What? He said, I just came back from Davos, and Indians had their buttons open, and they said, India is shining. India is shining. Do you agree or not? I said, how can India be shining when we have the same population as the population of the US, which is below poverty line? After that, he said, you've answered my question. Let's talk about something else. If we look at figures, if we look at statistics, US is 4 times the size of India, and we are 4 times the population of the US. Assuming the same proportion of natural resources per person, the ratio is 1:16. Assuming the same level of resources, which is not true, because resources are primarily dependent on the kind of technology to which you have access. If you have to mine anything, if you have to drill oil or gas, so a big function of what is available with you is a big function of the technology that you are using. Can we compete with the US? All other things being equal, even if we assume which are not. We have been talking about the demographic dividend. As Madam was saying earlier, how many of our graduates are employable? We could be producing graduates, but are they employable? People have been talking about the new education policy. And when I say this, I say with a lot of responsibility. As a former government officer, what is new about this policy? If you see the 20th century, most of the Nobel laureates in pure sciences, later on, even in economics, but generally in sciences, would come from Europe. Post 1950s, most of them started coming from the US or from the so-called more developed world. Why? US is what it is because of its university system. Today, what is the difference between an arts college and a medical college or an engineering college in India? The primary difference is it has a semester system. For example, in the IITs or even in other engineering colleges, you have to appear for weekly exams, which means you imbibe what is being taught to you better. In the US, you have concurrent evaluation. Every class, you are being evaluated. And the moment the professor realizes that you haven't read the reading material or the case study, he'll bring down your evaluation on a particular day. So that is the kind of learning which has been promoted, especially in the last 70 plus years in the US. And that is what has catapulted US to where US is. The search for excellence, the quest for excellence. What is new in our new education policy? Have we moved to the semester system? There, whether you take arts or engineering or medicine, it is all semester system. There are colleges or universities like University of Chicago, which have the trimester system or what they call the quarter system. So you basically have to go through 3 quarters in a year. You are running all the time. That is the kind of pressure which you have to learn. Is it a part of the new education policy? No. For what reason, I don't know. Change has to be not for the sake of change. Change has to be material. We should be able to see the change. 2 things now in the UK or Scotland, even parts of Europe, examinations are held at the end of the year, like what happens here in India in most of the colleges and universities. So you can afford to bunk classes, not to learn every day and cram up things towards the end of the year and still get good grades. But is it good learning? Are we producing the right professionals or right academics? That is the reason today we find even the European, British, Scottish universities lagging way behind American universities. There's nothing great about American universities. Basically, what changes, you bring in the ecosystem. I remember any day when I would read my case study, I'll be so shaky in the class and I'll prefer to keep quiet than to say anything which is flaky. We write a lot of stuff in our articles, we say a lot of things in our presentations which are not validated by data. I remember I was Principal Secretary of Transport in Rajasthan, And the finance secretary said, we'll increase your target by 10%. Now, how does this figure of 10% come? Has the number of vehicles increased by 10%? Where do we get this figure of 10%? One budget, the next budget, you look at the last budget and you readjust the figures. And you have a new budget before you. Have we done due diligence? Have we started every show? Have we started fresh? No. Things which have been practiced in the country for the last 75 years, we are still continuing with that baggage. One day, my supervisor, she said, Madhukar, you don't write on the file. I said, ma'am, why should I write on the file? I can see 100 files without taking even one decision. I am paid by the government to take decisions, not to see files. And if I feel the right decision is being taken on the file, why the hell should I write on the file? A doctor in All India Institute, in very cryptic handwriting, will prescribe the medicine. It is not the handwriting or the paper on which the prescription is written which is relevant or which is material. What is material is what solution is he providing to the problem. Clarity of what needs to be done and what, especially what doesn't need to be done, is extremely important in making policy, changing policy, and most importantly, implementing policy. Same policies across the country are implemented differently and differentially in different states of the country. Chanakya, long time back, and I used to read a course called Reasoning from History. And the basic objective was to understand what has happened in the past in our country. And what is there to learn? Can we learn from our own history to plan for the future? Now, today, whenever I talk to people, they'll say we are building institutes of excellence for providing livelihoods. Why do you need an institute of excellence? If a boy has to be trained as a driver, what, do we need an institute for that? It's all experiential. A barber, his sons learns to cut hair by seeing his father. We don't need institutes for that. And as a country, we can't afford these institutes. What is the final destination? Is it to build institutions or to provide jobs or to provide livelihoods? If something can be done in a cost-effective manner, do we need to do it in a roundabout manner? Do we have the wherewithal for that? Or do we have the luxury of time to wait for things to happen? I remember once we were given an assignment to write a one-pager on a family policy. People refusing, youngsters refusing to get married, refusing to produce children. We still have the reverse problem. Our parents in general, Indians in general, are still obsessed with getting their boys and girls married as early as possible. And the blackmail is, I want to see a granddaughter, I want to see a grandchild. Now, just see the difference between marrying somebody at the age of 20 and marrying somebody at the age of 30. You are adding one more generation. In 20 years, you are adding an additional generation. So the point is, so we were asked to write a paper on family policy, just to how to encourage people to get married, have families, and have children. So I didn't write anything. And when the professor asked me why, I said something which is driven by culture. You can't be intruding into people's bedrooms. You can't have a family policy. And he said, let's stop here. This answer could have come only from an Indian. Anyway, the Chinese experimented with a one-child policy. Now it has become the norm, even after withdrawing that policy. Believe me, whenever I travel in this country to places where I have been posted, I was posted in Kanyakumari. I was a kid, from Delhi University. I finished my MBA from FMS. And I was thrown into the ocean literally as SDM of Kanyakumari district. Now, to see a totally different ecosystem. Anyway, there was hardly any choice. But then, today when I visit Kanyakumari, Chennai, Trivandrum, Bangalore, what have we done to Bangalore? I went to Nagpur a few days back and I asked the taxi driver, I said, ये मेट्रो में कौन बैठता है? सर लोग घुमाने के लिए बच्चों को लेके जाते हैं. We think metro is the solution to all transportation problems in an urban area. Metro is metro, it is subway, it is not over the ground. Calcutta is the only place which continued with trams. Even today, the tram ticket is like 1 rupee and it takes you into the heart of Calcutta. We throw the trams, post-independence, without applying a mind. Trams used to get into the heart of Delhi, into Chandni Chowk. Can't we think of introducing trams now? Can't we think of other solutions? Or do we want to go for this very expensive projects like the metro? 1980 when I saw Bangalore for the first time, beautiful city. Now see how ugly MG Road looks with the metro. We have literally screwed up the skyline of our beautiful cities. How many of us know about urban development? Shamelessly, we are converting villages into towns and cities. गांव को गांव क्यों नहीं रहने देते हैं, उसको शहर क्यों बनाना चाहते हैं? It is much more expensive to maintain people in towns and cities, especially metros. Why can't we keep people in villages? Now with the internet, access to IT, where is the need to bring people to cities? A lot of things need to change. India and countries like India were known for people to be working with their hands. There is no town, city, village in this country where I traveled which didn't have something interesting, something unique. Everywhere, handlooms throughout the country. Fabulous handlooms across the country. We had a great tradition to work with our hands. Why don't we continue those traditions? Why do we go for expensive solutions? Why do we need, again, the cost of repetition, why do we need these islands of excellence? During Muslim times, Mughal rule, later on the British rule, there were hardly any governments, no ministries were there. No civil servants. But still, traditions continued. In spite of government's no subsidies, no loans, still those traditions continued. See the kind of food which is produced in this country, across the country. Again, tradition. We have carried on our tradition. We haven't learned from our own tradition. At the same time, a lot of inbreeding has taken place in our country, where we do not look at solutions outside our country. Singapore became independent in 61. Air India was set up, I think, in 31 or 32. 3 airlines, Singapore Airlines, Thai Airways and Cathay Pacific, and they're all public sector, mind you. All 3 are still public sector. You know, it's a very, I would say, rather than use a very strong word, it's a very flaky argument that private sector is better than the public sector. Both of them have to coexist. Again, an example which we don't need to follow from the US. US is a huge country, ideally suitable for railroad transportation. But the private car lobby bought over those railroads and they never allowed railroads to flourish in the US. Again, a bad example of transportation. Not a good example to India. And the British was wise enough to create this network of railways. So, where is it that we, so I was talking about Air India. Those countries which started afresh, they did much better than we did. All of us, I remember when I was managing director of the Road Transport Corporation, you also might have seen in railways, buses, they will take money. The conductor or the attendant will take money for the ticket, but he will not issue a ticket to you. So obviously he pockets that money. So which is called theft in revenue. So as a country, we always talk about corruption. We have to choose China again. The focus is on value addition. Focus is on creating wealth. Distribution of wealth comes later on. Many times, often we see people in our country saying that, complaining that so much of affirmative action is there, reservation for different communities, different tribals, whatever. US also has some reservation, some affirmative action is there. But then they said, rather than focus on how we cut the cake, we are cutting the cake according to some rules. 15% for scheduled castes, 7% for tribals, whatever. They said, rather than be focused on cutting the cake, how we cut the cake, increase the size of the cake, so that all communities have more. Today, all IITs, when we were studying, there were just 3 IITs, 3 or 5 IITs. Now you have maybe 15 IITs. Changing the name of a college, anyway, not going into that story. So we have changed names, we have upgraded many colleges into IITs, whatever. Still, IITs all put together produce not more than 20,000 students or 20,000 engineers every year. Sloan School of Management at MIT or Harvard Business School, Sloan School, when I saw it for the first time, I said, only one building producing 1,000 MBAs every year. Classes continue on Saturday and Sunday also. Here, you have fixed teaching hours. We are still in the same old paradigm. Why can't this scale it up? to 2 lakh students in the IITs. What prevents that? We have to use our infrastructure better. We have to focus on people. Countries are built by brick and mortar, are built by flesh and blood, not by brick and mortar. I worked as Vice Chancellor of 3 universities. You can practically change everything. We are in the habit of artificially creating shortages. The mindset is like that. The quality will come down. The quality will not come down. In a country like India, we have to be cost effective and we have to scale up things. Now, entrepreneurship. Today, I want to put up a small tea shop somewhere in Delhi. Can I do that? I want to earn my own livelihood. I want to use a push cart. 10 fellows will come, municipal corporation, police, so many people. I have to face so many people. Why can't we give them licenses? If we have to provide cost-effective food in this country, we have to encourage street food. And the easiest way is charge them very reasonably, license them, just like the hawker centers in Singapore. And most of the women, most of our people know how to cook. And they can add value and they can sell things at a very low price, 10% of what you get in hotels. At the same time, if you reflect 20 years back, today when I was coming to this hotel, so the guard asked me, कि साहब कहाँ जाएंगे, क्या करने आए हैं होटल में? तो ऐसे चक मारने जा रहे हैं. So when he heard me, he didn't ask any questions. Knew that he'll get a mouthful. अरे 2 साल कोरोना में सारे होटल बंद हो गए. हम लोग आ रहे हैं और ये सब आप बेसिर पैर के सवाल कर रहे हैं. Why? 95, first time I went to Africa, and I was scandalized. I was surprised to find private security. I said, what are the police doing? Why should we have private security? In this country, people don't want to work. 8 घंटे वर्दी डाल के खड़े रहना है. And they're a nuisance. You look at Nirbhaya case, so many other cases. Most of these crimes have been committed by these kind of people. Why do we need people around? One, even if you want somebody at the gate, have one person. Do you like so many intrusions? I don't like these people in black uniform. How are they contributing to the wealth of this country? What are they trying to do? Why can't we ask a peon? Why can't we ask a driver, once he brings you to the office, let him function as a clerk, let him function as a peon? Why does he want to sit in the car itself, doing nothing, gossiping? My professor, her daughter had turned 16 and she told her, either you pay me rent or you move outside. Here we feel obligated to serve our children till whatever time they are with us. Why don't we encourage our youngsters to work with their hands? What is the shame in all our religions in this country? Tell us, shed your ego. Why Hinduism, Buddhism, whatever? Why do these religions encourage you to beg? The basic idea is you should lose your ego. When you go and ask for food somewhere, people can say all kinds of things to you. So the basic idea and the basic premise is shed your ego. Listen to a lot of abuse so that your ego goes away. Likewise, we have someone from the armed forces. When you join NCC or when you join Israel, compulsory conscription for 1 year for all students. Nobody will get a degree without 1 year of compulsory military attachment. And when you go there, the same JCO will abuse you profusely. Once you become an officer, he'll salute you, but there he'll abuse you. Again, the same idea is to crop all your rough edges. That is the answer to making these people more employable. We are spoon feeding our younger generation. We are spoiling them. When Akbar found Jahangir was getting spoiled, he was found drunk at the age of 14. He told Man Singh, take him to Deccan, learn him how to fight wars. Otherwise, if he stays here, he'll get spoiled. So the point is, we need to be focused. We need to introspect. We need to learn from our own history. At the same time, we need to learn from what has happened in other countries. In India, when British were here, you had a superintendent of police in a district. You had a district magistrate. Now, if they are not good enough for whatever reason, our political masters don't boast us seeing our competence. They have many other considerations. And then the whole district is dependent on two people. What will happen? And if they are not good enough, people suffer till such time they are there. Why do you want? The British had an agenda, they had limitations. In 47, when the British left India, only 1 lakh Britishers were there in a country of 33 crores. Now we are 4 times. They had a limitation that the power has to be concentrated only in the British, because there are a handful of Indian civil servants. They could trust the natives. Now, can't we modify the system? We have to a small extent. But largely it is still concentrated. When we became independent, our political leaders in their wisdom, they imposed a stamp duty of 25%. On 25-30% on all land transactions, fearing that, like Pakistan, the bigger landlords will buy the land from smaller peasants, which was good at that time. Now, progressively, the stamp duty has come down to 6%, 8%, where men, women, there is some differential. Let's say if I have to sell land for 1 crore of rupees, I have to shell out 6 lakhs to the government for what? Selling my own land? Why? Same policies. And officers like me who are sitting in government, they are shy to take big decisions. Basically, we need to take big decisions like the British did in India. To take India up to a level where we compete with China or with the US. I'll give you a very simplistic example. Jewar Airport, which is coming up beyond Noida, now it has opened up that whole area. Most of the investment is being made by a foreign company. If you reflect, most of the cities in the world which have a population of more than 5 million, they have more than one airport. And in India, we committed the cardinal sin of closing down 2 airports in Hyderabad and Bangalore, which was right in the city. And we encouraged the private sector to put up airports 40 kilometers outside the cities, which takes about 2 hours, sometimes more than 2 hours to go to that airport. Just the opportunity cost in terms of transportation, time, money, whatever. Can't we revive those two airports? Make them compete. Like two cell phone companies, make airports also compete. Jewel Airport will compete with the Indira Gandhi International Airport. The reason, the primary reason for the growth of Gurgaon over Faridabad came up much earlier. It came up in the 50s and 60s. Gurgaon, even in 90, when I was a junior officer in the Government of India, was just beginning. The primary reason for the growth of Gurgaon and beyond is the airport. Easy access and easy exit. Likewise, that area has opened up. Can we suggest to the Government of India, why not propose another airport in north of Delhi, Sonipat, Panipat, whatever? We don't spend a penny from the Indian Exchequer. Go for a global bidding, invite the best. But we need to be careful. We can't be handing over the micro operations in our country to anybody who's from outside. We have to have partnership. The whole idea is get in the best technology and capital at much lower cost because their interest rates are lower. What are we losing in the process? The whole area will open up. So these are a few examples which I thought I'll share with you. An elephant or a tiger, cheetah, lion, whatever, they are much more powerful, stronger, faster than a human being. But why? How? A man who's 5'6", he has imprisoned these, he has put these animals in a cage. Why he has been able to enslave these animals? It is because of this and this. The world is driven by ideas, discipline and hard work. Hard work in the right direction. Democracy doesn't mean indiscipline. What happened in Texas in the US? Americans, whenever they fail somewhere, I said, why should you be driving, why should one person be driving one car? Why? And the only answer that you get is, the American way of life. We have lived like this, so we will live like this. Why do you need guns? How can you buy guns off the shelf like toys? Again, American way of life. Now, they also have to reboot. They also have to reflect, introspect and see whether that policy is good for them or not. At the same time, those of you who know about automobiles or motorcycles, I know that you're coming. So, Harley Davidson, again, it's an American institution. It's an icon of American society. And when the American government realized that Harley Davidson was being shut down, I forget the name of the president who was there at that time. I think Bush or Nixon was there. Bush? So he went to their factory and he appeared on the cover of Time sitting on Harley Davidson. It's an American institution. We will not let it go down. Likewise, today, my bike comes in the morning and she says, sir, I don't have a BPL card. I have whatever cards I need, I have, but that bike doesn't have a BPL card. What is the ease of doing business? Loans, people who really want loans, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, they have no access to loaning. I remember the government of India started a drive for loaning for the micro sector 3 years back. I was sent to Ajmer. Loan applications worth 200 crores were lying with different banks. And finally when I said, either say yes or no. Likewise, just see the inventory of flats, apartments all over the country, Greater Noida. Just see the inventory which is lying vacant. It's a national loss. Can we organize loan melas to ensure that people move into those houses, they start using them, and builders, rightly or wrongly, they have put in money there. Not only builders, people have put in money there. Can we bail them out like Harley Davidson? Mistakes are committed by different people, by companies, by individuals. But what is our role? What is the role of the government? We have to bail them out in public interest. So I get clear signals from the good-looking lady there, so I'll stop here. And I'll again thank Mr. Dubey and Omkareshwar Pandey for having me here, giving me this opportunity to meet you and say what I had to say. Thank you so much.